Hello everyone, welcome back to JavaScript tutorial. This is Sharful. In this lecture we're going to learn object-oriented programming in JavaScript. So what is object-oriented programming? So object-oriented programming is a mechanism which supports some specific features that makes more dynamic your language. So if any programming language support those specific features such as encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, data abstraction, those are some of the main features of object-oriented programming. So if any languages support those features, then we can call that language is a object-oriented programming language. So is it JavaScript object-oriented programming language? We can say yes, but there is a difference because the JavaScript is not a class-based oriented programming language. It is a prototype-based language. It means it doesn't have classes, other it defines behavior using constructor function and then reuse it using the prototype. So what does it mean, the prototype? We'll have a separate tutorial for explain with example about the prototype. But just for now, we can say, unlike other languages, let's say Java, Java is a class-based programming language. So according to Wikipedia, we can say a style of object-oriented programming in which inheritance occurs by defining classes of object instead of inheritance occurring by the object alone. So according to Wikipedia, we can say, what language, most of the language which is based on class-based. So it's the inheritance that occurs based on different classes. So it means you can access one class's properties through another classes by the inheritance features. But in the Java, we can't do. It's not a thing based on classes. It's based on prototype. Prototype is another global object. So Java is basically all objects. So so we have to see how we can define, how we can implement object-oriented programming concept in JavaScript. Still there is a way to using object-oriented programming in JavaScript. The main features that's supported by the JavaScript, first of all, is object, because JavaScript is all object. What is object? The object is a unique entity we know which contains property and method. For example, I would say car. Car is a real life object. We know the object is a real life things that exist in real life. Whereas a class is a blueprint, doesn't exist. Is a logical things, logical entity. But object is a real life entity. So car is a real life object which have some characters like color, some type, model. There's a horsepower and perform some action like drive, right, brake. Those are some action. So the characteristics of an object are called as a property. Object-oriented programming, and the actions are called method. So and an object is an instance of a class. Objects are everywhere in JavaScript. Almost every element is an object, where it is a function, array, and a string. So everything in JavaScript is called object. So whether it's a function, array, string, everything is treated as a object, other than a class. So we'll have a separate tutorial. You'll find a separate tutorial about the object in JavaScript. Then it's prototype. As I said, prototype, you can say it's the global object. So if there is a lot of properties of this global object of the prototype, you can use on your function, on your array, on your string, any other object you have in your JavaScript, you can use the prototypes object as a global object. We'll have again separate tutorial for this. And encapsulation, we know the concept of the encapsulation that's help you to wrap up your data in a variable through function. Okay, so it's other hand, we know this encapsulation used to hide your data in a single unit. So again, look for the tutorials, separate tutorial for encapsulation, how encapsulation implement in JavaScript. and then inheritance. So instead of like other programming language based on class-based programming language, in a JavaScript, inheritance concept apply such a way so that you can access some properties from one object to another object instead of class. Okay, so that would be the difference. And the polymorphism, the relation between many objects instead of many class. So it will be relation between many objects. So those are the main features that support is still possible supported by JavaScript, and that you can say yes, JavaScript is an object-oriented programming language, but the difference is again it is based on prototype, which is based on object, and other than unlike other programming language like Java, which is based on class. So your object-oriented programming mechanism is based on class, but in the JavaScript is based on object. So that's the bottom line. Okay, so please check other tutorial for each and every features. We'll have a separate tutorial so that you can understand how to implement the concept of object, prototype, encapsulation, inheritance, and the polymorphism in JavaScript. Thanks a lot. Stay tuned and wait for the next videos. Have a good one. Bye bye.